has built so many roads across the country. Uganda now is connected on Masaka roads from north to south, from east to west. Masaka roads. Echo Katumba akyogeddeko. Naye ovuga ku chorus nova ku border paka wa ku border.
The Uganda Shilling 600 billion project is expected to be completed in 40 months. The Masaka Road is important in as far as regional trade is concerned, but its current state is wanting.
This is a very critical road within the East African community, promoting trade between Uganda and Tanzania mainly, but also facilitating other members of the region. It has taken a while, but it's never too late. We are there because especially our traders and our truckers who have been coming from Tanzania have been complaining about this stretch of the road. So now we have come to that, and I think it's really in the right direction.
Truck and taxi drivers who frequently use this road urged government to ensure the project is executed to the requisite standards and in the stipulated time frame.
Barabara mbaya sana. Kuna shimu ni nyingi sana.
The most difficult thing on this road which we meet, particularly the time we spent in the road. We know we are time conscious. When we delay in the road, we can't reach any time. So our goods are not going well as such.
As government invests, the public is urged to take advantage of the vital infrastructure to trade locally and regionally.
Osobola okuyingiza akasente mu nsawo yo. Ekyo President yaludde ng'akyogerako.
Costing at least $1.7 million per kilometer, this project seems by all standards to be a costly venture for the country. The Minister for Works and Transport had this to say regarding to the cost.
There is a reason for that. We are not paying the contractor up front. The contractor is pre-financing this project for 2 years without getting a coin from government. Definitely, a person who is investing that much builds in some interest because he's also borrowing the money. He's not getting it from his pocket. So that's why you find the project is seemingly expensive, but when you look at the return on investment, it's worth it.
President Yoweri Museveni's long-term appeal for Africa to have its own investment bank has been fueled by the discussions held by Uganda's top financial players, amongst them the Deputy Governor Bank of Uganda, the National Planning Authority, the Financial Intelligence Authority, the insurance sector, among others. Let's have a look.
We need a domestic bank or an African bank, but we want Uganda to lead because this is what those that are already on board are saying. His Excellency the President of the Republic of Uganda should be the main flag bearer of this African bank.
The chairperson of the National Planning Authority, Professor Pamela Mbabas, aligns with the sentiments expressed by the head of the State House Investors Protection Unit, emphasizing the opportune moment for East Africa and the continent as a whole to conceptualize and implement the establishment of our own indigenous bank.
Some of us are not very familiar with this concept, but we're willing to unlearn and learn and see how we really solve this issue of mobilizing indigenous, Ugandan sort of patient capital that can fund us. But also the other component the private sector presents is to formulate an African investment bank. For a very long time, as the African continent, as African countries, we've relied on foreign capital. This is a momentous time to start a discussion, a conversation, to see as Africa, as Uganda, as East Africa, how do we begin working together to mobilize this money required to enable us establish an African investment bank.
Professor Mbabas asserts that creating an indigenous bank with favorable interest rates will revolutionize the financial landscape, mitigating the high interest rates typically incurred by African countries when borrowing from foreign entities.
It is our duty as government to strengthen local private sector to lead growth, and Travaco is coming round as one of these indigenous private sector to try and mobilize us to really develop our financial value chain. NPA did a study to understand the challenges of high capital in this country, and one of the challenges we identified was really relying on foreign capital. We need to find a solution, a model that can help Ugandans save for investment.
I've spent over 25 years working in 4 financial centers, and in all these areas I've worked in Asia, Europe, North America, and now Africa. So the experience we are bringing is very, very valuable. But I have to say this, there is also still a lot of learning on our side. Nothing is perfect, but this is a new direction that Asia has used, UAE has used, so many countries have used the creation of indigenous patient capital to create new prosperity.
Backing this idea will reduce Africa's reliance on foreign funding for critical sectors such as the mineral and infrastructure, eliminating the need to continually seek assistance from the Western world.
Whereas we've been looking at agriculture, looking at other different sectors, we're looking at the financial value chain and seeing how do we, as Uganda, begin to control the financial value chain. We've relied so much on foreign capital. It's time we began to think, using our minerals, using our many resources, how do we start building a financial value chain that can enable this country transform. Now, this initiative is about working with the private sector to see how we can solve a challenge affecting our country, of enabling us mobilize cheap capital, patient capital that will enable us fuel these projects that we want.
Crispus Alinitwe, UBC Business.
Ugandan women have been excluded for a long time, says Stephen Asimwe, the Chief Executive Officer, Private Sector Foundation Uganda. However, the days of women's exclusion is coming to an end as the private sector apex body commits to attack the problem at the center. The CEO, PSFU, spoke to BRU.
Women for a long time have been disenfranchised. They do not have access to finance because you need collateral. So what we've done is attack the problem at the center. So we are involving men in the business discussion. We are empowering women, but we are also saying, are there avenues where, in the unlikely event that that is not able to be resourced, are there alternative, better, easier mechanisms that we can get these people? And so we are doing that, but most importantly, it's an issue of mindset on behalf of the men. But secondly, we are telling financial institutions, let's join in this war to get these women to be able to access finance or facilitate that process. And that's why we have this project called GROW. GROW is an acronym for Generating Opportunities for Women and Employment. It is going to be joined at the hip with another project called INVITE, Investment for Industrial Transformation and Employment. With those two, we're looking at a portfolio of northwards of $400 million, which we are sinking into this entire ecosystem for the next 5 years. What it's going to do is it's going to set up women for business, for production, for markets, but essentially it's also going to address policy issues that are strictly speaking to creating a business and enabling environment for the women folk to thrive.
The release of the United Nations Human Development Report for the year 2023-2024 has highlighted that Uganda has moved to a low-middle income status, a development hailed as a milestone for the country. Crispus Alinitwe has the report.
Able to use these
During the launch of the UN Human Development Report, there was an emphasis on bridging data gaps, fostering collective action, and increasing financing for core projects as essential strategies to sustain Uganda's upward trajectory in the Global Human Development Index.
This report comes at a time in history when the world is struggling with challenges such as wars, declining development financing, and climate change. Fourthly, Uganda's progress on the SDG shows that overall 26 of the SDG targets are on track, with 54% of our targets showing limited progress, and the progress on 20% of the SDG targets are a bit declining. Therefore, we need to see more collective actions and cooperation between state and non-state actors to address some of the challenges, including the slow transition from sector-based planning to the program-based planning approach. Data gaps, which make it hard to assess performance, weak planning and budgeting for core projects, and limited financing for development.
One exciting highlight of the launch occurred when the UN Resident Coordinator disclosed that Uganda's pursuit of attaining a middle-income status received renewed momentum, with the announcement that Uganda has now transitioned to a low middle-income status.
I also want to inform that Uganda's transition to the medium human development category aligns with an exciting message that I got a few days ago. The UN Committee for Development Policy has announced that Uganda has now fulfilled the criteria for graduation from the least development country to the lower middle income country category for the first time.
The graduation from low to medium human development country is something we can recognize, celebrate. It's a big milestone. But the challenge is to sustain, accelerate this great momentum, and also taking into the consideration of the current SDG progress.
The report reveals that health inequality is lower compared to income and education disparities. Additionally, expected years of schooling have surged by 5.8 years, while female labor participation has also significantly increased.
Low index country, the human development indices to a medium level country has moved 5 to 7 places in that ranking, and Uganda is consistently across board performing above the average for sub-Saharan Africa in some of the indices that we use in measuring human development. We have been told here that life expectancy in Uganda, child born in Uganda this year, is expected to live 17 years longer than previous times.
The rank in terms of global ranking, it is 146th rank. Uganda is 159. Rwanda is 161. Tanzania is 167. Ethiopia is 176. Around 31% of the human development values in Uganda tend to lose due to the inequality in this country, if it's overall sense. If you look into the by sector, health sector, inequality in health seems to be relatively low compared to the inequality in income, inequality in education.
Crispus Arinitwe for UBC Business.
The National Social Security Fund has launched a survey report on the performance of benefits and perceptions towards retirement. The survey seeks to give the fund a broader understanding on how the benefits are utilized by the beneficiaries and learning about their quality of life. Let's have a look.
Take a couple of questions.
Some of the key findings of the NSSF Enterprise Uganda National Beneficiaries Survey include low financial literacy among beneficiaries, high dependency rate for beneficiaries over the age of 45, retirees continue to shoulder immense responsibility over dependents well into retirement, among others.
I would not expect retirees to invest in shares that much. Zero is a surprise, but it is not bad. It is not bad practice. It's actually advisable that at 50, you're not buying shares because shares are a bit volatile and you have to have a long-term aspect to it. Perhaps maybe MD will speak to why the fund invests in shares, but taking the angle of why retirees should be very skeptical while investing in shares, it's about the volatility and the risk.
This survey seeks to give the fund a broader understanding on how the benefits are utilized and the consequences.
If 60% of people that receive their money, especially for this particular survey, are still in employment, that could be explained by quite a number of factors. But number one is the design of the scheme. NSSF is governed by the NSSF Act. So it details the categories of people that can access their money. So there are certain types of benefits that enable you to access your money even when you're still working. Mid-term is accessed at 45 years of age, even when you are still actively working.
According to the survey, the average amount paid to the beneficiaries was 24 million Ugandan shillings and the average age of the beneficiaries was 50 years. It leads to the question of sustainable investment for retirees.
We have reached a level where you and your money are not going to make it if the government is not doing well with the money it takes from NSSF and us in taxes. There is only that far that you can go. You're not going to make that bridge if it breaks down. Now, it doesn't matter whether you can afford an ambulance. If that bridge is not there, it's not there.
Similar to the 2018 survey, education, housing and land purchase remain the most important priorities for most of the beneficiaries. Another key takeaway from the survey is that family is as important as financial planning.
Now that you're aware that when you produce your children has a direct bearing on your the quality of your retirement, so I think it's something that you now need to take the conversation on the table with your spouse and agree when you can actually have children. But don't wait too long because we know biologically I think the most productive years or the prescribed are between probably 20 to 40 years.
Laura Nagaba, you.
According to a recent report by Uganda's Coffee Development Authority, Uganda exported 430,000 bags of coffee in February 2024, down from 480,000 bags in 2023. Despite this decline, the country remains committed to tripling its export volume by 2030 through initiatives focused on value addition. We have more from CGTN.
Mohamed Abdel Samad is ensuring the finest grind of coffee enters the export market from Uganda. Uganda mostly exports raw coffee beans, but Mohamed is shipping processed coffee, which fetches a higher price. He's also improved on packaging to attract buyers.
We are doing the necessary steps to get it direct to the consumer consumption initiated from Uganda, not in another country. By doing this, actually we are, you know the concept of add value to any product. Yeah.
The Sudanese exporter has been working in the Ugandan coffee industry for nearly a year now. He's setting up a system to promote processing across the country to improve production.
We have already created collection centers around in Uganda, and we have now about 3 or 4. And we are exporting hauling milling machines from China, around 16, and we are going to disturb in these centers. And we will be near the farmers.
Coffee exports fell by the most in 14 months in February due to a drought in the Mount Elgon region. Uganda has an ambitious target of nearly tripling its export volumes by 2030, and it hopes to do this by adding value to its coffee, by improving its quality and boosting revenues. The coffee agency is now training farmers on how to get new varieties that are drought-resistant to try and mitigate climate change so that exporters like Mohamed can have the best quality bean.
Laberica is a variety which has been growing here in the forests, but later on domesticated by farmers. So it is highly resistant to drought, but also tolerant to some pests and diseases. If you look at its cap quality, it's not very good, but our interest here is to get those other characteristics of it has a big rooting system which can help it to get acclimatized in areas which are dry.
Coffee is Uganda's top agriculture export, and the country is Africa's leading exporter of coffee beans. Mohamed says he's hoping to scale up export volumes of value-added coffee with new coffee varieties hitting the market. Isabel Nakiria, CGTN Kampala, Uganda.
Uganda also had a safety audit last year. They scored, we'll have to check, but it was, I think, about 72%, thereabout, between 72 and 75. I'll need to check the numbers. If we do not score the minimum score, we end up getting a safety concern, which is published, which implies that ICAO will inform all the other member states that, oh, by the way, Uganda has failed in this area, there's a safety concern. And then that's how you find airlines stop flying here.
Government think tank, the Economic Policy Research Center, has marked 30 years of impactful research in Uganda. At the gala dinner in Kampala, EPRC staff, board members, the media, among others, were recognized for their contribution towards the entity's success. Check this out in our Sounds of Business.
Professor David J. Machibinga, a big
Swaibu, wherever you are. Swaibu has a good history with EPRC. He first thought he came from academia, where he did not know how policy works, and so he kept on coming with these issues around regressions, and then this is a different world. So he had a long way, a shocker coming for him when he joined EPRC, and I think he had a good stay.
And we win a whole 1 million shillings. Let's have the photo. Let's have the photo. To another 30 years, ladies and gentlemen.
As we wrap up this episode of the Business Roundup edition, we leave you with some words of wisdom. Consistency is what transforms average into excellence. Without consistency, you will never achieve greater success. Otherwise, thank you for watching the Business Roundup. I've been your host, Sigoa, and let's catch up same time, same place. Bye-bye.
UBC, inspiring Uganda.